Have you ever wondered what it's really like to sail on a river cruise? Maybe you love the idea but struggle finding the right cruise line or itinerary that suits you? Well, you actually wouldn't be alone. And that's why we've invited Steve Avalos, the Regional Sales Director for Amadeus River Cruises, onto the podcast today. Steve will share with us more about their river cruise line and why, or even why it might not be, the perfect river cruise line for you. So let's dive into their story, best suggestions, and top tips for anyone considering this incredible form of travel. But first, hello. My name is William. I'm the host of the Navigating Waters podcast, as well as the owner of Sunset Sea Travel, where we specialize in river cruising throughout Europe and around the world. So let me introduce our guest today, Steve. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, William. I really appreciate it.
You bet. I'm glad to have you on here. So, could you just take a moment to share a bit about your career in the travel business, and more specifically, the river cruise niche?
Absolutely. I started as a wee lad, as they say. 33 years ago. Started
Oh,
in ocean cruising company. I worked for an ocean cruise company, a four-star ocean cruise company. Then I graduated to a five-star ocean cruise company. After about 5 or 6 years, I went into the motor coach companies. Did a couple of those tour operator motor coach companies that are well known as well. Then in 2002, 2003, I was lucky enough to be the third person hired at Alma Waterways. Was there for 15 years. I've been on 17 of their river cruises. And then in 2000, post COVID, I when I left Alma Waterways, I became an independent multi-line sales rep, and then I was fortunate enough to um, join Amadeus River Cruises post COVID, which was a tough couple of years, and I've been there
yeah,
for four years now. Been on four of Amadeus River Cruises. Love it.
wonderful. Yeah, great. So, getting things started, could you tell us a little bit about the Amadeus brand? I know they've been around for a number of years, and where their headquarters are at, and a few other details that makes Amadeus unique.
Absolutely. Amadeus River Cruises is been around one of the longest with the parent company Lufner Cruises in Europe, in Austria. Been the leaders and innovators and pioneers of river cruising for over 42 years. I think no one comes very close to that at all. And about 11 years ago, we opened an office in Chicago. Minus, 2.5 years of COVID, kind of have to start all over, kind of thing, with getting our name brand out there. Um, so it takes a while to do that, and we're starting to redo that again. But we let that other company kind of market all that, and good travel advisors know how to offer their clients other river cruise lines that are available that clients might not know of. Okay.
Right.
Um, we are a five-star river cruise line for the four-star value. So really, no one can beat our value proposition and our reach. And that really is the beauty that I've been finding over these 4+ years, is that reach that we can go out and get others that have been looking for 20 years about river cruising, because it's been one of the hottest products in the industry for 22
Right.
years.
Yeah.
But when some clients are invited by their friends, relatives, organizations to go on a river cruise group or individually, they look at 4,000 plus, and not all people can do that.
Right.
So when they look at our price, looking at the low 2,000s, they go, "Wow, is that wrong? Something has to give when we're a five-star river cruise line." So that really is one of our uniqueness in the industry, is being able to have that multi star reach, if you will. Some river cruise lines are five-star. They cater to their five-star clients. Some are four-star, three. We can do all three. Excuse me. I get excited. All three of those, and no one else can.
Right. Right. No, I think even when I'm sharing with my clients that are interested in Amadeus and learning more about them, you know, you're able to keep your marketing budget incredibly low, and sometimes that causes concern. But then I show somebody the availability calendar of, they're almost wiped out for 2025.
Yeah.
You
No.
know, it's speaking a lot of volumes, and really what the company is relying on is travel advisors like myself to really educate people about the product, and then in turn they're able to have that savings that can boil right down to their to bottom line price, so they can get a very similar experience for an excellent value there.
And what
Um,
also happens is those that cannot afford a suite in some of my other five-star competitors, they look at ours that are about half the price. That's a
right,
great thing there. And the other big thing is our solo business, our singles that are out there. You know, it's always been tough in the single industry. They're paying 200% at hotels,
right,
150 to 200% with ocean cruises and river cruises. With us, only 15. That's 1/5% to be
yeah,
for our single supplement.
yeah,
I mean, that is huge. And we're not putting them in a 140 square foot box like some put single cabins, 172 square feet. We
yeah.
don't just have four of them like some do. As many as you can book, they're available for all of our cruises. You don't have to
And
go
it
on a
was
solo cruise, you know, and things of that nature.
booked one just last week, and they took a balcony and had a great supplement rate, and I think that
Can't beat
really
it.
is what sold the deal for them.
Can't
It's
beat it.
just having that, yeah. Because a
There's
lot of
nowhere they
times,
can go.
well, and a lot of times the solo supplement is really designed for filling up the lower deck, and Amadeus gives them the opportunity to do that, you know, on any of the different category throughout the ship.
Absolutely.
So that makes it a
Except for the
great thing.
suites.
Yeah. The one thing that we mentioned that Amadeus has been around for a period of time and has just been in Chicago for a little over a decade, marketing to the U.S. More recently. Where was a primary piece of their marketing efforts, or where did most of their cruise passengers come from before that push to come to the U.S. market?
It's kind of, it's of course mostly before in Chicago. I would say 60% of it, 65% coming from Europe, of course, and the rest from the rest of the world. You know, over these last 11 plus years in the U.S., you know, our mix right now is about 50-50. You know, 50 from North American market, and then the rest from the rest of the world. But the good news, you know, 90% of that 50% are English speaking clients. And I hear a lot of my travel
Yep,
advisors, their clients say, yeah, they love the cruise, but they especially love having to meet people from around the world, and they're able to communicate with them and now keep in touch with them and be lifelong friends with them.
right. Yeah. It's one of my embarrassments when I go over to Europe and don't speak all the languages of the different countries that I visit, and they're all so fluent in English. In different
Yeah.
countries are different amounts,
Mhm.
but it's amazing that you really can have an English speaking experience all around the world. And uh, just, I think we should have done a better job 40 years ago when I was in school, but
Yep, I'm
we
with you.
can't go backwards. So our next big question, this is really the most important question of the day that we're aiming to answer for our audience is how is Amadeus different? I know we've talked about it a little bit, but there's so many different cruise lines out there. They're all sailing ships that look quite similar on the outer shell. They're all long, sleek river cruise ships. Uh, they vary in size, typically based upon the river, and not so much between each different brand. But share a little bit about what Amadeus does differently that somebody might want to know or understand a little bit better.
Well, a few things that are really important come to mind is we design, get our ships built, and we own and operate our own ships. Not everybody does. Some
No,
charter their ships, and etc. And that's where you're paying a middle person, you know, to do that. And some that own their ships don't even run their food and beverage. They pay someone to do that. So again, that's where prices are added. And that's when we run and operate our own everything, we can control those costs, have a smaller margin to get the attention of the US and North American market because it's just a ridiculous price when you're looking at a $2,500 average high season September rate, which includes port charges,
yeah,
which many that don't include that, that's another 220 plus per person, which includes gratuities. For those that don't include it, that's another 150 to $200 per person. So
Right.
people go,
Per
it's
week.
common sense. It's natural for people to go, well, something's got to give. The included wine will be cheap. The food will be cheap. This and that. No, it's not. It's five-star product and food and gourmet dining and the unlimited wines and the great guides that we have and cruise managers. Everything's the same, but because we can control that and we don't have to pay someone else to do it and work on smaller margins and pass it on to the consumer, it's a no-brainer. It
Right.
really is, and I think that's really really important. Our ships are beautiful and innovative. We have only six categories. Some have nine plus. Very confusing. Some of the big things about our ships is very important. Is we have elevator that goes to every cabin category. Not the sun deck. No one that has that. But cabin category. Most just have it in the middle and the top deck. But sometimes when people walk a little bit too much and they have a little sore knee, they want to upgrade. No place to upgrade. It kind of ruins their whole trip. So having an elevator in every cabin category is huge. Our sizes are one of the largest in the industry, starting at 172, not 140, all the way to 224.
Right.
So the ship's design is really, really important. The elevators, we have connecting rooms for discount for children. So we do allow children, some don't.
Most don't.
I've been on 22 river cruises. I've only seen maybe I've thrown 3 to 5 children, and 2 have been mine. And when they're 3 or 5, they're cute. When they're 10 plus, they can be an issue. But
Right.
it's not an issue. But post COVID brought a lot of multi-gen and younger families coming on river cruising because of the value. So if you are paying double occupancy, no matter if you have a child, that can be prohibitive. So when we have a connecting room for a child from 5 to 17 that gets a 30% discount, of an already low price, and now you have a single parent, let's say, of the family of 3, they don't have to pay 200% 150. They only pay 15% more with that connecting C cabin category.
Right.
So that's huge.
Yeah. No, it's a huge difference that doesn't happen in very many of the different brands that are out there. One
And the
thing
last
that I,
the last thing is people love our panorama balconies where you have control to press that button and the whole top half of the glass comes down. And by pushing out that balcony, we don't have a French balcony, which has the door sills that interrupt your views.
Right.
It gives you that walk-in closet. Now that's another huge thing. People love our walk-in closets. Most river cruise lines do not have it. They might have it in a suite or two, but we have it in our whole middle and top deck to have a walk-in closet. That is big when you're looking at 188 square feet to others that are 170, 150 and below at that level.
Yep. Excellent point. I want to make sure that we highlight the excursions. So
Okay.
you guys do excursions differently than every other brand out there that I am aware of, or at least in the English-speaking market, by separating the excursions out of the price. Now, obviously, that's one of the ways that the price is coming down. But when I regularly have conversations with clients and they're comparing Amadeus to XYZ brand, I can pull up the same exact itinerary, the same exact week,
Sure.
and show them an apples to apples comparison, the same size balcony, blah, everything, everything, everything. And even if they take the very top excursion package from Amadeus and add it into their Amadeus fare, it's still usually less
It
than
is.
the other brand. So could you talk a little bit about that? And I know that there's the 3 packages, and just kind of share with the audience a little bit about how that comes together.
Yes. What's very important to understand is when you're going to 1 to 2 towns a day along the river, you're unpacking once, you're gliding down the river, no seasickness, no motion sickness. You're visiting these towns anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. But for those cruise lines that offer all the excursions included, it's not always a positive. Because yes, you might have 3, maybe 4 amazing excursions to pick, but 90% of the time you can only do one at that time that you're there. So for the river cruise lines that add all the excursions, it sounds like a plus. For some it is. They don't want to deal with it. Okay, I'll pay for it. I can afford it. Boom. But most, basically, those that included are charging another 20% more on their price to have those other three coaches, guides, gas. It equates to almost 20% more in price that everybody is paying for, whether you use them or not. And that's been the problem over all these years that I've been in river cruising with other companies and such. They'll complain that they had a great time, but gosh, I really wanted to do my own thing, but I kind of paid for this, so I feel
Right.
obligated to do that. So I'm not as happy, or I'm not happy because I did what I paid for, but I wanted to do this, especially post COVID. We're getting clients and families coming on that want to do their own thing, but then they
Yeah.
pay for it.
Right.
So that's a big deal. So we've learned to separate it. We believe you pay for what you use, okay? Like a
Hmm.
lot of other companies are talking about on commercials, right?
Right.
So we have an A, B, and C package, pre-packaged, five or six in the A that average about 350, 10 or 11 that's about maybe 500, all of them for about 650 average. Even when we've added all excursions on most of our comparisons to those that included it, we're still 28% less than them. Okay?
Hmm.
So even if you want to say you want apples to apples and throw them all in there, we're still going to be at a very competitive price because we basically give everybody the group pricing, and
Right.
that's a huge deal.
It is. So, a hot topic that's always important to me every time I have a conversation with people and try to explain to them that the demand for river cruises just continues to explode, continues to go up, and it almost sounds like a sales pitch. I sound like a really cheap
Yep.
salesperson when I say availability is just shrinking. So, I'm always trying to explain to them this cruise you want to think about until next spring might not be available then for next fall. So, um, if you've got any statistics or anything that you could share about what that availability calendar looks like, I regularly spin through because you guys have the easiest availability calendar for me to look at on my side.
Thank you.
So I greatly appreciate that. I'm actually planning to include a little bit about what that looks like throughout this video. But if you could share a little bit about some of the booking trends and availability and how it's changed over time.
Well, post COVID, of course, has changed a lot of things. We were talking about pent up demand for years because people that were going in 20 had to go to 22, 21, and then 21. It still didn't happen to 22. So all those years of pent up demand has just been snowballed for all the 22 and onward. Number one. Number two, your Christmas markets and tulip time itineraries are always very popular itineraries and always go quickly because it's not a full season like some of our Danubes and
Right.
Rhines. You have many more dates because you have a longer season. So those two I mentioned, tulip and Christmas markets, have a shorter season and they're very festive, very popular, and they go pretty quickly. So yes, the trend is you have to book early. It's funny that some of my TAs, let's say this last September, they waited too long to get 25 Christmas markets. So now they have to do 26 Christmas markets. And they're saying, God, I haven't even promoted my fall 24. And I have to tell my clients, you got to think, if you want to do Christmas markets, 25 is already gone. And you got to start thinking about 26.
Right.
So we all have to change our mindset, our travel advisors and our clients. And I know people say, I don't know where I'm going 3 months from now, let alone that. Well, if you want to go, you're gonna have to think about it sooner, as opposed to
It's
waitlisting and waitlisting and waitlisting, and then hoping and
right.
disappointment.
Yep.
So those are
It is.
are what you asked for, and a trend is the single the solo business is on the rise. A lot of the baby boomers we have a large solo mix there, and
Mhm.
so that is way up. And again, we provide to that, and that what makes it so people love us to when we only offer 15% single supplement, and we're not gouging them, like is known for in the industry.
Sure. So, if Amadeus could pick a perfect ideal client, what does that person look like as far as how active they are? Any kind of ideal guest to be on board. You know, you don't want the people that are going to be out partying up on a big ocean liner, and I don't think you guys lean in the direction of the rocking chair cruises either. So
Right.
in between there is a pretty large gap. So kind of talk about what that target audience looks like.
Yeah, it's changed over the last 10 years. Yeah, it used to be your 60 average, more towards the older baby boomer. But now it's the younger baby boomer, so you're looking more of a 50-ish, kind of average because the post-COVID has brought in the 40-year-old families and the 40-year-olds that see the value and don't mind traveling with anybody. And the beauty of river cruising is you're only looking at about 160 passengers on board, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with lots of room because some of my competitors are putting up to 190 passengers in the same footprint.
Right.
So you don't have the big lounges in the back. You don't have the big workout rooms, the salons, the masseuse rooms. You're packed. You're sardine in, nowhere to go. So we have spaces in the front, in the back, in the top, the sunroof. So if you want to be by yourself and pretend like you're only 10 people on the ship, you can because everyone's dispersed everywhere. You can knit in a corner, read a book, or be as active and hike to the castle where they imprison Richard the Lionheart, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And with our bikes, manual and electric, there's beautiful paths along the way where you can go to one town to the next. So, it really ranges now with post COVID again lending more to the multi-gen groups. You'll have the 85-year-old matriarch all the way down to the 5 to 8-year-old. So all in between. So
Right.
it really is a product for everybody, and with history, with just people wanting. My kids love to just be in the pools, and things of that nature. So there's a lot of history, art, museum. There's just the gambit of everything for everybody there.
You bet. So tell us a little bit about how many ships Amadeus is currently sailing and where they are sailing, just the current ships.
We own and operate 18 ships in our fleet. The good news for the North American market and the U.S. website is you'll only see the 8 to 10 newest ships for this market, which is nice. All our older ships, the European market doesn't care. U.S. We want the biggest, the newest, the largest, all that bells and whistles. They don't care. It's just a floating hotel for them. But for us, we want everything new and big. So we've been making a brand new ship every year since 2015, except for 21 because of COVID. We
Right.
have our brand new first hybrid ship, the Nova, that came out this year.
Yeah.
We spent an extra $8 million. We didn't have to, but we did just to get the hybrid, the electric engines, to get AI involved in the navigation, to get solar put on so you can get more efficient air conditioning and heating systems. And again, the less footprint. I mean, from the get go with this company, it's always been about sustainability, leaving less footprint in our own backyard because it is our own backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always been something that we looked at on ships innovations and the newest and latest technologies to keep that in mind. And we've won the very prestigious Green Award because of it in our fleet. So those are
Yeah.
really important things. Did I answer it? I don't know if I digressed.
You answered most of it. So let's talk about the rivers that you're sailing on.
Okay. We have 28 different itineraries, okay? From Amsterdam all the way to Romania and North and South France. So all kinds of stuff in between there. So 28 different itineraries.
Sure.
We don't venture out of Europe there. We don't go to any other exotic places. We want control because most of the when you have to run a ship in another foreign country, you don't have control. You have to be in partnership with a company in that country, and we don't want that. We want to have full control of our ships.
Right. Right. And just to highlight, I know you had mentioned sustainability there very briefly. There's not a lot of brands out there that have a focus on that. So I know when the article and the information came out about the Nova, I even put it into our newsletter for our audience a few months ago. So we're pretty excited about that. That's going to make some great strides. For most of our audience, they're going to be brand new to the rivers. They've likely have been on an ocean cruise before, which is a completely different experience altogether.
Absolutely.
But just real quickly, I know we hit on it a little bit, but let's just take a quick run through on all the different inclusions that come with a river cruise, specifically with Amadeus. It's going to kind of set them apart from an ocean because the stickers, the price tags just look incredibly different. But I think it's worth highlighting why those differences exist and really help people understand that.
Well, as I mentioned, I work for a couple ocean liners, so their whole way of doing things is a small price up front to get you on there, and then it's kind of nickel and diming, paying for water, paying for this. I mean, I was just on one, and even though I had the full beverage package, I still had to pay for a bottled water, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and they don't let you buy it or take it off the ship or bring it on the ship, so it's pretty crazy. So, with river cruising, the beauty is again the size, 165 passengers. Um, um, what was else we were talking about? What were you talking about? I kind of lost it there.
Well, the inclusion. So the
Okay, so the
Wi-Fi.
inclusions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the beauty about river cruising, again, we changed the ocean and river cruise industry from 20 years ago by including your either water in your room that's good water, your wines for lunch and dinner are included, lovely local wines and beer that are included, your water, your teas, your coffees, your sodas for lunch and dinner, gourmet dining, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have an early riser breakfast, a late riser breakfast. You have a light lunch section. If you get hungry at 10:30, 10 o'clock, they'll bring out food in the lounge as much as you want because there's no 24-hour room service because the crew's
Yeah.
already working 20 hours a day as it is,
Yes.
kind of thing. So again, you can always put stuff in your little refrigerator depending on the cabin you have.
Hmm.
So having that, be able to unpack once, walk on and off right into the city as opposed to tendering, waiting, herded in areas where you have to wait for your number to get on a tender maybe, and 6,000 inundating a town,
Right.
and with three other ships go the same amount of people on an island, and you wanted to go to the famous restaurant or bar, and it's a 3 hour wait, and then you got to go back to the ship already before you miss it. So here you're able to go on, come off, and freely whenever you want, and that's the beauty of it. Not again. You're visiting two towns a day. You're visiting one, going out on your own, or doing this excursion, coming back on the ship for lunch, or you might have time, 2 hours, to have a local lunch and have the local favorite there, which I highly recommend. Or just be at a little cafe and people watch. Get
Right.
back on the ship, cruise down, either have lunch or cruise down to the next city to do the same for another 3 or 4 hours. Get back on the ship, have dinner, have entertainment, and then that's when I recommend don't go to bed at 10:30, 11. Get out. Again, you might be there till midnight, 2 in the morning. Get out. Walk that same fairy tale town that's different at night than from the hustle bustle during the day. It's romantic. It's safe. Stumble upon a beer garden. Go in. Meet locals that you'll have lifelong friends. They want to know as much about you as you want about them, and that's the immersiveness of your own. And you can come back on the ship 10 minutes to departure and not having to
Right.
worry because
Yeah.
the city center is a mile away. Normally, you can walk to most of these towns.
Yeah.
So
Or
that's
even
kind
right
of a
up against the shore.
whole different experience. Everything is right there along the shores. Exactly,
Right.
castles, quaint towns.
It's about once or twice a year I like to pull up a comparison and I will go and grab some random Rhone River cruise for a purpose and I will just put together what that's going to look like with all of the inclusions and all the expenses that they would typically have, gratuities, excursions, etc. And then I'll go and compare it with a line that's sailing out of the same region. So kind of a med cruise that'll go out of Barcelona or out of Nice. So I'm trying to stay in the same general space. I'll pick the same month, and then I will take a comparable room, and I'll add in the Wi-Fi package, the beverage package, the excursions, the gratuities, everything to get up to be comparable. And almost every single time, it's a few bucks more for that 4,000 person mega ocean liner than it is for the 150, 170 person river cruise. So it's kind of an interesting piece. It's just built differently, but it's an important distinction for people to understand and kind of work through.
Yeah, and you mentioned the inclusions. We include the internet, which is in your cabin and the whole ship. So that's included. And like I mentioned, the port charges with us are included. The gratuities are included. So
Yeah,
again, getting back to the ocean versus river cruising, they get you in at a under $1,000 price point per person, but many wind up spending 800 to up to $2,000 when you look at all those excursions,
right.
how expensive
Or
they are,
more.
and you
Yeah,
buy this and you want the upgraded restaurants, and people always go, I spent that. It's so easy to sign for things, and then you're just bewildered about how much you spent, and it would have been way more than getting on a 5-star river cruise with us, and having a 5-star product with 160 passengers
yep,
on a Danube and on a Rhine, which are our number two, one and number
right.
two itineraries.
Yep, yep. So we had mentioned a little bit earlier about the Tulip cruises. There in April and the very first of May. We talked about Christmas markets, and those are really pretty well defined as well. Just maybe the last few days in November and spilling through all of December. What other themed cruises is Amadeus offering that people might want to think about and give some consideration to if they've got a specific interest in their life?
Of course, we have the wine cruises that everyone's that are popular about, and again, you have the tulip, which is flower markets, the Floriade every 10 years, and all that great stuff to do that. But what we started, because as many of you probably know, pickleball has been one of the hottest sports in America and soon to be the world. We were Amadeus was the first ones to have a tournament on our ship in May of 22. We were the first to have itineraries pre and um, venues, Vienna, Budapest, Bratislava, where you can play with the local pickleball with the locals. So we've had those itineraries where you can, because it's bragging rights, just like our golf themed cruises
Right.
is another wonderful program. Where you can go with other golfers and do all that stuff, and everything's handled, and you're going to amazing four golf venues at a ridiculous price. Because
Hmm.
what I used to sell before was a lot more expensive. So sorry, I digressed to golf, but pickleballers and golfers, it's bragging rights. And when you can brag with golfers that you're golfing on the white cliffs of France, or in pickleball, you're playing with the locals in Vienna. It's all bragging rights coming back home.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
pickleball has been a big thing, and we were one of the first ones to do that, and we
Yeah.
still kind of do that.
I was just visiting with somebody a couple of days ago about the golf program. So, some beautiful courses that are included in
Amazing.
that program. Yeah. So, as far as the excursions, I understand that the packages are there and they have the ability to pick, A, B, or C.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about what activity level those are going to be at? Some of them are going to be kind of a slow element. Sometimes, it's going to be a little bit more of an active experience. What are the highs and lows, the spectrum look like for the activity level for the excursions that you guys have available?
It's really the whole spectrum. We have a 1 asterisk to 5 asterisk. So in our excursions, in our brochure, it shows that it gives you a description, a full description, and then it gives you the activity level. 1 through 5. Average being 3. So I mean, you can read it, and the beauty about our product, not everyone does it, but we have full disclosure of all of our excursions, all that it includes, and then again the activities director, so that clients can not wait till 30 or 60 days of final payment to start figuring this out when you get all
Right.
those pamphlets, and what the excursions are going to be for that cruise. We have them all there so that in a year in advance you can start going, okay, this is a small one. We can do this a little walking tour on our own. Ooh, this is a full Salzburg, full
Yeah.
day. We can't do that on our own. So
Right.
the beauty of it is we have the prices of onboard prices of those exact excursions, and then which ones are all included, and then by purchasing any of the packages, you're kind of saving about a 15% discount of the onboard price that's to the left. So some people go, okay, we'll do this on our own. Okay, this one we can't. So okay, all we need is a medium or introductory package. We'll do these on our own, and then we'll buy a handful of these on board to fill our whole customized excursions, which is beautiful.
Yep.
You pay for what you use.
Are people able to purchase an a la carte, an individual excursion before they get on board, or is that only on board?
That's only on board, so they can
Okay,
only pre-purchase the excursion packages. Okay.
package. Yeah. So, before we wrap it up, where should guests considering a river cruise with Amadeus go to get some more information about the great Amadeus brand?
To their favorite travel advisor, of course.
Uh, it couldn't be said any better than that. So, Steve, I really appreciate your time. You take out a valuable part of your day today to spend with us and answer a lot of
Always.
questions and tell our audience what sets Amadeus apart. And I think we've definitely answered that. Do you have any other parting thoughts before we cut loose?
No, I think we covered some major things. Of course, there's more to delve into, and again, that's what you are for. You're our arms or as well. And of course, as you mentioned, they can go to the website and see all that information. They can click on stuff and learn about an itinerary, learn about a city, and just
Yep.
click on stuff, look at pictures. It's all right there, and then get to your advisor as soon as you can with the window of time you want to go and a couple of your top itineraries.
Hmm.
That way you don't have to go back and forth. You're already kind of giving your window, giving what your interests are, and sometimes maybe some cities are a little bit itineraries a little bit better than others. So we have slower itineraries that are more relaxed, going down to Romania, which is great. If you haven't been to Romania, you can go to Dracula's castle and those
Yeah.
kind of things. So there's a lot of great stuff and a lot to learn, but use your travel professionals to help you guide you along, and then read it yourself now that all that's there, and give us a look and compare, and you'll be surprised.
Great. Couldn't have said it better. Steve, I
Right.
greatly appreciate your time. You have a good one now.
Thanks, William. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me.
Thanks. Again, thank you for joining us on the Navigating Waters podcast. If you're new to Navigating the Waters, welcome. I am the River Cruise Specialist for our travel agency, Sun CNC Travel. We have a weekly newsletter dedicated to river cruising. If you'd be interested in subscribing, I'll have a link in the description for you below. Also, I have a river cruise selection guide with more than 50 pages of details about river cruising, from selecting an itinerary to the best brands for your interest to the best seasons to sail. You're welcome to grab your own copy of the River Cruise Guide. There will be a link in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in scheduling a call to visit about a river cruise, I'll also have a link down in the description below. Again, thank you very much for joining us today.